Welcome, everyone. This is Aleister Nacht. I've got a very special guest tonight coming to us from South Africa, and we're going to talk about Satanism, the left-hand path, the challenges that are experienced, and where we think things are going in the future. So, my guest tonight is Cimejes Satanas from South Africa. Cimejes, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Aleister.
It's great to have you on the show tonight. I've been looking forward to this, and I think my listeners are really going to be intrigued with this conversation. So,
Good.
so let's start out with first of all, what has your journey been on the left-hand path?
Okay, look, it's a long story. Okay, if you're interested, yes, I'll go through it. It started in the late 1970s. I was actually working in sub-Saharan Africa at the time, and I found a book on yoga, and I thought, oh, this is interesting, and I did study yoga for a few years, and from it got me interested in witchcraft. Then I moved to South Africa. I went to Johannesburg for work. And I thought, oh, this was in the early 1980s, right in the middle of the apartheid era. And I thought, oh, I'll order a book on witchcraft. Absolutely very simple book, a penguin book called Information on Witchcraft. And then the next moment, a few weeks later, the book arrived, but I didn't see it because I got a letter from the security police saying this is a banned book, and if you order any more, we will charge you. We will send you to the magistrates. And it was a realization at the time. They had a satanic police, a group within the police force was called the Satanic Group. Their job was to find Satanists and witches. And if they found you, they would charge you and put you in prison. So I thought, this is not a way to go at the moment, although I was still interested in it. So my only alternative was to study something else. So I got involved in Hinduism for a few years, and that amazed me, the power of mantra. And then the next, from Hinduism, I'm very eclectic. I tend to, my mind goes all over the place. So then I started to look into Buddhism, just the basic Theravada Buddhism. And I learned a lot about meditation and the effect on you. Then what happened was 93 Mandela got it, and they changed the constitution, but the satanic police force was still running around because the constitution didn't change in 93. It took a few years before that happened. So immediately that sort of the constitution changes and everything became very open, or more, not open, but more open than it was before. There were pagan groups. So I sort of joined one of the pagan groups. Nothing, not a coven, nothing, just general chats about paganism and all this sort of thing. But that group had to go and had chats with the satanic police force saying, listen, guys, we're not doing anything dangerous. We're not chopping people up. It's perfectly okay. So it was still, you just watch yourself. After studying paganism in the 1990s, for some reason, Satan, what should we say, got into my head, started to call me. It was the last thing I expected. I was quite surprised and quite shocked because one's indoctrinated with this idea, Satan is war, this is bad stuff. And I got really worried about it, actually. And I kept on going on to websites that were satanic, beating up as much as I could. I think at one stage I read one or two, I got 2 or 3 of your books, Aleister. But I actually ran, I sort of, no, I can't do this, can't do this. But the pull was too great. So the satanic police force was stopped, okay. In South Africa, you can still have traditional healers. They're sangomas, who a lot of the locals go to for health issues. And you do have divination as well. That seemed to be left alone by the police. They didn't bother too much. But you still have to be careful. I mean, the last 3 weeks here, we've had a woman who was accused of being a witch. She was burned to death. That's 3 weeks ago.
Burned to death.
Yeah, she's burned to death. Okay, in one of the township areas. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I had a situation where a couple of years ago I had something wrong with my computer. So I did a computer. Somebody came, on the web, came into my computer to try and sort it out. He saw that on my desktop, I'd happened to put, I don't usually, but I happened to put a satanic figure there. He was freaking out. So two things on this. One, let's go back to when I was in the paganism in the 1990s. Then from there, Satan pulled me in. And that went on. And then in 2008, I joined the Satanic group that I'm now involved with. Now, in fact, what's happened is I'm running that Satanic group. And that's really my story of how I became a Satanist. But you're still in South Africa. I wouldn't tell anybody I'm a Satanist. I mean, some of my friends know, and some of my relations know. They think I've completely lost it and around the twist. And but they don't disregard. They don't sort of, oh, you don't want to talk to him or anything. They just carry on and say, oh, he's lost it. Okay. But that's basically my story. But
Wow.
a long process. But I feel that I learned a lot of the power of mantra from Hinduism, and which is definitely I find that's in my satanic process. I use ends a lot, satanic ends, and they are extremely powerful. And I learned that from Hindu information I got from Hinduism, and also very basic meditation techniques I use in Satanism. As I said, I'm very eclectic.
Well, it really sounds like it's been a long journey and a challenging journey as well. I did not realize that things are still that lady was burned to death, you said?
Yeah, she was 92 years old.
And was this like the neighborhood got together and did this, or was this government sanctioned, or?
You've got to be careful. They get very uptight if they think she's putting, if they think something, I'm just trying to think how to put it. A lot of Africans are very fearful of anything like spells or out of body ghosts or things like that. They get very fearful. Whereas I think in the West, we might say, oh, look, okay, it's a ghost. But I mean, you don't need to go crackers over it. They will tend to think that somebody's putting a bad medicine on them or somebody's putting spells on them.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to remember, and they're quite into poisoning each other in certain places. I mean, one of our ex-presidents used to have a guy eating his food, testing his food before he ate it, and still does. I've no doubt.
Wow.
So I mean, some very strange things. I've got a belief that one of them is poisoned. Okay, it's quite a common, not uncommon, but it's a sort of way that they get rid of people there.
Wow. So now the satanic police, so to speak, they have been disbanded now, or?
They're disbanded. They don't exist anymore.
Okay.
I mean, I even had some person who, this was quite a few years back, who I was having a row with, and they knew I was a Satanist. So they went to the local police station and said, this guy's a Satanist. So the woman police officer there said, listen, Satanism, we have free religion now. Okay, we're not interested. Unless he's starting to kill somebody, we're just not interested. So no, they won't, the police won't arrest you for it here. No.
Wow.
I mean, that was proved by this guy who was trying to sort of get me, because we had a fearful row over something. As I said before, I would not tell anybody Okay, really. And, okay, as I said, one or two of my friends know, one or two of my relations do, and they think I've completely lost it. I'm complete. No.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I just laugh at them. Okay. But yeah, I think yeah, I'll be careful. If somebody asks me and really pushes it, what are you? I just say I'm pagan.
Yeah.
Okay, or if even that looks risky, I then go, oh, I'm interested in Buddhism. It just sort of interests me, just to sort of pass. That's okay. That's acceptable. Paganism is pretty acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay, and anybody sort of say, what is it? What is that? And I just say, oh, it's nature worship, and then you just get around it. It's better to, because everybody here is very. I think it's a bit like the South in America. They've some of them are very, very strong Christian. They tend to see ghoulies and the devil in everything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's still the way it is here, especially in the southern states, in the Bible Belt. But we have never had that kind of formal persecution, like from a government entity. And I think what's important is to point out to a lot of people how it could easily reverse and end up going back to something like that.
I think that a lot of people think, oh, it's total freedom now. But I would always be careful. I say, listen, I've told other Satanists, I said, listen, just be careful because it can go back. It could go back.
Right.
And bingo, you're in trouble or being attacked or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done several videos on, freedom of speech, and people just think I'm ranting and raving, that could never happen here. But, all dictatorships in all the countries throughout the world have always started with some semblance of rights or freedoms. They may not be the same, but then when this tyrannical government comes into power, things change so quickly. And to say that it could never happen in the U.S. or never go back to what it was in South Africa, I think is just really it's incorrect. And I think it's a little bit pompous for a person to believe that their rights are absolute for eternity, because those things can change depending on who comes into power. That's an amazing story you've got there. That's a powerful testimony. It really is. So your ministry now, tell us a little bit about what you guys do in your group as a ministry.
The Cult of the Ram was set up in, I think, 2007. Okay. I joined it in 2008. So it's been going for about, I think, 15 years. It's quite small. It has about 60 members at the moment, but that changes sometimes quite radically. Our idea, or one of the main ideas, is mentoring. Okay. We have a sort of, it's for study, it's for educating people in traditional, I would say, satanic values. Because there's not, besides yourself and probably one or two others, but isn't much on the web. People come along and they say, oh, I'm a Satanist. And then I get the feeling with a lot of them, there are no books, which is great. Really, I'm not talking. Sorry,
Yeah.
no, your books are fine. But I'm saying there's no books like setting down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and people are so indoctrinated with this, in the West, with this Christian idea from birth. So, oh yes, you've got to be told what to do. You've got to be all this nonsense. And so, a lot of people who go into Satanism don't know where to go, don't know how to stop. What? And they go around in circles, or they can't find information. So our group is very much to try and get people. What should we say? I'm just trying to think of the right word here. I call it getting them on the Satanic highway. It's to try and get them into a relationship with Satan. Once that happens, Satan takes over. He will somehow advise you or give you ideas in your head, new ideas of how to move forward. But the whole point is you must get on that satanic highway. And that is basically by ritual and worship. I mean, there's no hidden thing about it. You know, it's a pretty simple thing to do. Once you're on that, I'm saying, what shall I put it like? It's a bit like a tree. You've got your main trunk, and your main trunk is your relationship, your main relationship with Satan. Then you have offshoots, and those offshoots may be tarot card reading, use with the pendulum, all sorts of things. A lot of it also sex, going to ends, etc. They're side things. The main thing is that trunk of your relationship with Satan. Okay.
Right.
And that's what I try to put over within the group. My general thing at the moment is I only started to run the group. I was asked to run the group from January this year because the person before who was running it decided to retire. So I'm trying to put into process my ideas, and it hasn't been finalized yet. But we, as I said, we have a monthly discussion, we have weekly chats, we have a monthly class on something. Obviously, in our members, we have quite a few long-term Satanists there, and I'm trying to get them involved as well as giving their experience over to members. It's a pretty open, small group. I'm not quite sure whether I want it to grow radically. I've seen from other groups in the US. I'm not interested in running down any other satanic group ever. It doesn't interest me. Your main job is to keep up your relationship and grow with Satan because he wants you to get what shall I say to get to your highest point that you can. Okay, don't get yourself involved in trying to rude to other Satanist groups because they don't. Satan, you know, you can do what you want in Satan. You have freedom to do what you want. But I've noticed with one of the main groups recently, they're massive satanic temple, I think it is, and already they're in some lawsuit going on and this and that. And I always think if you get too big, you can start getting into. I mean, I think their idea is great. I've got nothing to say about it. I think it's fantastic. But you can get yourself into trouble if you have too many members, and then everybody's starting to fight amongst themselves. And that I think supporting you're wasting your time. All right.
Right.
It's also very much a web-based group, and we have members from Canada, the US, South America, the UK, Germany, Spain, Australia, Hong Kong, and Japan. So we're a pretty wide-based group, which is great. You know, very interesting.
That is terrific, and I will put a link to your website in the show notes. So if anyone is interested, you can look that website up and see what they're doing over there. I think that is terrific, having a worldwide ministry like that. You know, in Magnum Opus, that's something we have always struggled with, or at least I have struggled with, trying not to get too big too fast. People come along from time to time and they want to do really great things, and that's terrific, you know, for the kingdom of Satan. But with some of those individuals, I had to part the way and you know, just leave their presence because they wanted to basically hijack the ministry and take it in a direction that they wanted it to go. And if that were to happen, it would no longer be Magnum Opus. It would be their ministry, whatever that may be called. And so it's, you know, it's a fine balance between having solid membership, people that want to be involved, people that volunteer to do things, people that bring their skill sets to the table, so to speak, again, for the glory of Satanas. And also on the other side, having people hijack your ministry, so to speak.
I've found that very true. I found that since I've taken over this group, I've had to sort of shut down, not shut down, but sort of, it was a new experience for me.
Yeah.
I have to, guys are coming along and wanting to help, which is great. But then I had to work out what was their background, what was their thing. And then they wanted to do certain things. I said, no, 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 not yet. No, but no, you can't do that now. I've got to put my ideas out to start with, which I think the group has always put over. And then some of your ideas, fine. But it's quite difficult. You have to assess people who are as you say, come to the front and we're going to take over the whole thing. That you've got to be careful of. And it's quite a job when you're running an organization like this. And I think that's one of the reasons that I would not like it to be bigger. You have to assess these people, because I always feel when you've got an organization of this size, sometimes you need a break. Okay, you can't keep on running at we're going to say 100 miles an hour. You've got to cool down at times, and you've got to hand over some of the things to other people, which I'm in fact trying to do. But I've taken me 6 months looking into people, watching people, feeling how they go. Whether they agree with my way of handling things or whether they've got something totally different. And that is totally new, which is a new experience for me, having to run this whole group. So far, it's going quite well, but there's a lot more work to be done.
Right. I agree with you 100%. Same experiences here. And what a lot of people will get frustrated with is because I do go so slowly and developing even relationships. My closest relationships outside the physical coven, which we've been together over 30 years, but my closest virtual relationships are Cygnus, Atratus, and Malthorpe, who I believe has studied with your group.
Yeah, he joined for a few weeks ago. Yeah.
They're the closest people that I deal with, and it has taken literally years, they will tell you, for us to get to that point. Because what I have experienced, and you can tell me if you've experienced this as well, obviously, when people come to the left-hand path, and more especially Satanism, and they get that breath of fresh air and that freedom and that being uninhibited feeling, they really go full speed, and they want to do and they try to do, and what happens is they run as an all-out sprint instead of a marathon. And when they don't get what they want, or they're not allowed to do what they want to do within the time frame that they want to do it, that's where problems start to come up. I don't know if you've experienced that or not, but
That's one of the reasons I've never really done a virtual coven. Looking at the web coven that I'm running now and seeing the management of it, running it, and I can see a virtual coven would be, I think, 3 or 4 times harder, right? Because you're meeting them face to face, and I think that can be very powerful energy-wise, much more powerful than on the web. I mean, I think can be massively powerful, but it can be massively destructive. So I've never really gone into a virtual coven. It may be something later in life I do, but at the moment I'm glad I haven't, having run this group. Okay, because as I said, you learn from this group a lot about personalities. You practically need to be, I would say, I'm going to say, not a psychiatrist, that's the wrong word, but you need to know a lot about mental, how people react, and etc., etc. So
Right.
from my viewpoint, a therapist, you have to be a bit of a therapist, okay? That's a new experience for me in the last 6 months or so. But I was thinking, when you're doing it in virtual, yes. In fact, I will go back a bit here. When I was going to pagan meetings way back in the 1990s, I could see a lot of energy going on between people there. And I tended to say, look, just stay out of this. And a lot of power dynamics going on. Gee, well, guys, I'm not interested in that. I think the great thing about Satanism is, and a lot of people don't realize this because they come from a Western Christian background, is Satanism is very much a lonely path.
True.
It's your development. And a lot of people are not used to that. They're looking to the old indoctrinations in the Western format. And it's hectically difficult to do a switch into the, what should we say, Satanic format, which is freedom, total freedom to think, act how you want. Look, you have to be aware of the fact of cause and effect, because I'm afraid we live in this society and there are certain things you're going to get into trouble over. So you have to be aware of that. Forgetting that, you have total freedom. And that's the first thing that I have with a lot of the people who come. I said, oh, I've been a Satanist for 3 months or something. And that has to be drummed out of them. They can decide what they want, or what I would say Satan may want for them. But it's their decision what they do. And that takes quite a time for people, as you're saying, it takes time. It takes a lot of time for a person to adjust and accept that.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think a lot of people, as you say, that are coming from other religions. I mean, I came from Southern Baptist upbringing, and, it took a long time to come to terms with that and to unlearn some of those things. And for the longest, I would feel guilt about saying certain things or doing certain things because it was so deeply ingrained in me that that's not right. You shouldn't be doing it. I could almost hear my mother's voice in my head. You shouldn't do that. That's not right. You're going to go to hell, and all this. Yeah, I think a lot of people wrestle with that as well. And in some cases, they come out of the frying pan and into the fire because they come out of these evangelical organizations that, basically are using peer pressure and mind control techniques, and they end up with the wrong group on the left-hand path that applies the same techniques. They
Yeah.
just label it
I've,
differently.
I've actually come across a guy he was an elder in the church, and he was talking to me and talking in exactly the same way as they do to convince you of something.
Yeah.
And it hadn't left him, yeah. Although
Yeah.
he was Satanist, but he's using exactly the same method. And I thought, it's not a good way to go.
Right. So what do you see as a trend right now in South Africa? Do you like, for instance, I guess it's worldwide, but we have these TikTok witches and these occult influencers on social media. What are you seeing in South Africa?
I don't think there's much change. All
Okay.
right, from my experience, I think there's been quite a strong paganism upsurge, not massive at all. There were one or two people who were running quite big pagan groups who were very, very good and wrote a book about paganism in South Africa. I think that's sort of accepted. As I said, when people ask me, I just say I'm a pagan, or I say I'm an eclectic pagan, and that's accepted. Okay, more or less. With people who I don't want to, there's going to be some problem. I don't really see them changing. There's still a very strong Christian ethos in South Africa, very, very strong. I think it is the same thing how it started in America. there was at one, there probably is still a very strong Christian,
Yes.
and it is in South Africa, right? So I don't think that's going to change. I think it might change. You get a small minority into paganism, but they're a very, very small minority, okay, here. And I really don't see them changing. I mean, with your African groups, you see, they're very much traditional, strong Christian groups. But as I said, there are Sangomas who are traditional healers, and a lot of Africans go to them for when they're ill. And they have tremendous, very good herbs, for them. So there's still that sort of, I'm just trying to think of the ancestors. They worship the ancestors here. A lot of the Africans are into ancestor worship, okay? But they still include it. They're all very strongly Christian. So I don't see, definitely not Satanism. I think they'll have a fit. Okay, I don't think that's going to change for a long, long time. But on the side of the paganism for whites, I mean, it's mainly whites here who are into what we call paganism. The Africans are very much into, ancestor worship, some groups, but also strongly Christian. It's quite interesting, actually. They will wear white clothes and they will pray. It's quite sweet, actually. They will go and pray under a tree. They won't use a church. So they'll have drums and they'll all bang the drums and have a good time, and it's quite interesting. Instead of with the Western thing, he's always so sort of big church and this, that, and the other. And
Oh, yeah.
there are one or two others. I thought, oh, it's very simple. They've got a very simple. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them got a very simple system. They just go and meet under a tree in the bush, And I thought, oh, that's quite nice, quite a nice way of doing it. But I don't think it'll change. I don't think it'll change for them. I mean, they'll have their symbols, and they have divination. People who do divination, throwing of the bones, is quite a strong thing with them. It's very traditional. Why will they want to change? Why will they? I don't think they'll change. It's been there for them from time immemorial. Why will they change? But
Right.
there's a very strong Christian group there as well. They're strongly Christian, and I think some of their ministers go a bit over the top sometimes. I mean, this thing with this woman being burnt about 3 weeks ago, I mean, the police were absolutely livid and sort of said to the elders, why don't you stop this nonsense? All right, for heaven's sakes.
Those tribes they're elder, and there's a real definite hierarchy within that group, correct?
Yeah, around Durban, okay, in Zululand, you still have the king and the queen, and they actually own. They are the biggest landowner, I think, in South Africa. Massive areas of land in Zululand. Then you to the south, near Port Elizabeth, going down the coast, you have Xhosa. And the Xhosa are in Transkei, which Nelson Mandela came from. And they have their own group, very, very strong their own group. Then I think you have about 12 different languages here, and accepted 12 different languages.
Wow.
Zulu, Xhosa, Swana, Sotho. Those are probably the main four. Now you have a few Bushmen here, they have their language. Those are the main ones, but you have 12. You have in the north of, on the border of Zimbabwe, I can't remember what they speak up there. No, you've got 12, I suppose it must be about 12 really different groups. But they're using one of the main ones, I think most of them speak 2 African languages. So most of them will speak Zulu, most will speak English, okay? In schools, English is the usual. Although there's been an argument, quite a lot of arguments, because in some schools they were still using Afrikaans as the main language, and they don't like using Afrikaans because they see it as the language that always held them down. But it's interesting. Interesting place to live.
It certainly sounds like it.
So far, I haven't been attacked. Okay. Okay, but if I have, well, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you never can tell in this world. I mean, it's getting so crazy here in the US as well, and it always gets that way around election time, right?
Yeah.
Because one side is playing the other and the other side is playing the other, and I people always ask me, "Well, what affiliation are you?" And I always respond, "I'm humanistic,"
Yeah, I
because
agree.
all politicians are criminals. I mean, they're trying to screw you. It doesn't matter what party they're in. Wake up, whether you
Very
watch
true.
Fox News or CNN, it's all the same. They're just putting a different narrative on it.
Well, I try to stay away from politics. I
Yeah,
just, I just walk away.
yeah, yeah,
The
absolutely.
other thing I've noticed is a lot of Satanists blaspheme a lot when they come to Satanism. And I said to them, listen, be careful. When you keep on blaspheming, you're still in the loop. I'm just trying to think how to explain this. If you have a salesman comes to your door, he's hoping two things. One, you accept what he's trying to sell. Or two, you're swearing at him and saying what he's trying to sell is a load of rubbish. I don't want to touch it. He doesn't want to have somebody who just goes blank. I see the blasphemer as a guy who is saying, I don't want to deal with this, because the salesman says, all right, I haven't sold the product, but if he's anti it, I can switch him around. Whereas the person who is blank has no interest in it. He can't do anything. So I always see the guy who's blaspheming a lot. I always say, be careful. You're still in the loop. You're still being bothered by Christian indoctrination, or how you were indoctrinated. You must try and get yourself in a situation where you're just blank, no thoughts about it. I'm not interested. It doesn't bug me. It doesn't think. I'm not interested. And a lot of these blaspheming guys have to be quite careful, because the more they blaspheme, sometimes the more they can get themselves in a mental mess
Yeah,
by sort of two things there. The Christian mob on one side and Satan on the other, and they're sort of blaspheming, and you're wasting your energy on something that you should just say, I'm not interested anymore. Just walk away from it. Don't get caught in this loop around it. And it's very difficult for them, I know, because I think they're very annoyed. I know one or two Catholic guys who are livid. They said, we've done 40 years of this and the whole thing's a load of rubbish. And they're very annoyed. And I said, fine, but try and just distance yourself from it. Anyway, interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people new to the left-hand path, not only Satanism, but it's almost like they have something to prove. And so they look to engage and provoke. And, sometimes the best approach is just to be quiet and listen and watch. No one says that you have to stand up and make yourself a target. We just did a webcast on that with night sessions, and there's nothing that says that you have to stand up and now, become a target for everyone.
Isn't that from Christian indoctrination?
I think it is.
Stand up and be counted, and if they blow you to pieces, well, that's fine.
That's
So
right. Yeah, you're
yeah,
a martyr. Yeah.
you're a martyr. It's a leftover from this indoctrination, which you've got to somehow within Satanism. I mean, I think it takes years sometimes to actually switch that indoctrination, and it it's very difficult when you've been indoctrinated from probably day one.
Yeah.
Okay, I also call a lot of it Pandora's box in your head, and a lot of the indoctrination or things that you thought of doing which were not socially or something acceptable is pushed down into the back of your mind. And I call it being pushed into Pandora's box. And I think in a lot of cases, when you come to Satan, you find Satan opens that up. And so a lot of people find, I'm getting all these new ideas, and I don't know how to cope with them, because They're ideas that were there years ago when you were 5, 6, 7 years old, and your mother came along and gave you a spanking because you were doing something you shouldn't do. And
Right.
so ideas are pushed to the back of your mind. And now Satan comes on, everything is opened up. Quite interesting, actually. And it's quite hard for people. Sometimes it's just, you may take years over accepting the change. I found
Absolutely.
people say, I can't, it keeps on coming back, keeps on coming back. And I said, look, don't worry about it. Just relax about it. Just let it. You don't have to, as you've said, run the 100 yards. Relax about it. It'll sort itself out.
Right. Absolutely. Where does the South African Satanic Church, where does it fit into Africa as far as the society and things like that? I mean, how do you see that?
That is a group that started a few years ago, might have been a couple of years ago in Cape Town. And he started a satanic church in Cape Town, a place to go. I take my hat off in some ways to him. I don't think I would. I'm amazed he didn't have the place burnt down. I was at one time when I was going to go to Cape Town sometime. I was going to pop in and see them, but I think they've got, I saw your thing with this guy, or somebody had grabbed him and hugged him, and he decided to drop Satanism and become a Christian again.
Yeah, he met Jesus or something out of a satanic ritual. I think his name is Rion Sweegler. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong, but
I got the feeling he was a bit unstable.
okay.
I'm not trying to be unpleasant to him, but I just got the feeling he was going through, a lot of, I just gave him the feeling he was a bit unstable. Look,
Yeah,
I think anybody who sets that up, says, here I am, here's my church, you're going to get barrage. I'm sure he must have been getting phone calls, web stuff threatening him, probably. I don't quite know what he was trying to do, I would say for South Africa, it might. Look, Cape Town is very parts are very avant-garde, very liberal, etc. But I think he could be. I think he could be a bit early. I haven't really paid much attention to them. It was, as I live over 1,000 kilometers or 1,400 kilometers away from them
right.
at the time. I haven't really paid much attention. I tend to emphasize with everybody, say, look, it's your path with Satan, it's your path, it's your relationship with Satan. You have to
Right.
develop it, it's where you want to go. It's not really a massive sing-along groupie thing, which is I look at the Christian church or other religions all around the world. It tends to be very much everybody meeting up together. I've told a lot of people that Satanism can be a very lonely path, and a lot of people can't handle that. They're so used to having that sort of groupie thing.
Yeah, I think some people come to the left-hand path, Satanism especially, looking for camaraderie or looking for, fitting in and belonging with a group, and that can happen. But for the vast majority of people, it's not going to happen. You have to look at the challenges that exist. Number one, finding like-minded individuals. Number two, finding people that maybe meet in person or online. Number three, that they're not involved in some kind of criminal element. I mean, there's a lot of hoops to go through for a person to arrive at a comfortable belonging to a coven that is right for them. That doesn't happen very often. I look at myself as being very, very satanically blessed that it happened to me with Magnum Opus, because when we did it, especially 25, 30 years ago, you really had to be careful, especially when I was in New Orleans. I was in Hoodoo, and before I left New Orleans, I know several people, firsthand knowledge of people that would go into the left-hand path bookstores in New Orleans, and these Christian fanatics would follow them home and burn their house down and stuff. I mean, this is This is the real reality of it. And it's something that folks today really grapple with understanding because it's easy to hide behind a monitor. Back in those days, if you said something or you did something in a setting where people could punch you in the mouth, forget cancel culture, they'd beat you with a baseball bat. I mean, the stakes were real back then.
I would admit that my gut feel is it in certain parts of America that could still happen.
Absolutely. You have to be very careful.
I follow American news, and I think, crikey, you're in the wrong place. A lot of things happening in the US at the moment. The main thing I think for having a coven or having a group is, for one of the strong reasons is, if you do ritual on your own, it's the power of one. If you do rituals with another person, that's the power of two.
Right.
But if you do rituals with three, that's probably the power of 4 or 5. For some reason, once you get over that, away after 2, 3, 4, if you do a ritual with 5 of you, you've probably got the power of 8 or 9 there for some reason.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons why people have covens or meeting places, because it increases the energy that whatever they're trying to bring up in that ritual.
Absolutely. That's exactly why we started, because it's exponential.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it grows and grows and grows. Plus the camaraderie. I love the old, what was it? Cheers. Everybody wants to know your name, or everybody knows your name, or whatever it was. I think it's the same way, for us 25 years ago, being able to go out into the workforce and into society, and no one knows. None of us wore satanic jewelry. I mean, we dare not do that. We were in the professional environment. Why show your hand? And so it was also very nice to be able to get together with like-minded, open-minded individuals and perform rituals and rites and things like that, and be able to talk to these people about things that you could not even discuss with your closest friends or relatives, anything like that. It was so liberating. It's few and far between that truly find that, though. Yeah.
It brings up a time with me. My father was very against any religious stuff. He thought the whole thing was bunkum. Okay. My grandmother was Scottish Presbyterian, a very sweet lady, but quite religious. And I always remember a breakfast. I think I was 12, and my brother was a great reader. And he came down to breakfast and he said, "I think God's the devil and the devil is God."
Uh-oh.
Father has an absolute condenser, because Father was very straight-laced, but very correct. He throws the newspaper up to the ceiling and says, "That's a load of drivel." Okay. And my grandmother was a bit deaf, so she said, "What's he saying? What was he saying?" And of course, I, as a 12-year-old, was thinking, "Oh, this is wonderful! Yippee!"
Oh.
Even at that age, I was quite keen on the idea. But it was typical of my brother to bring up these weird and wonderful points. But there are people who will think you're completely nuts. Father just went up with defense. God, I think that happened for people, for a lot of people today. I mean, as I say, all my sort of relations who are about 2 or 3 only, who know about my Satan, just they think I've lost it. They cannot understand what I'm doing. You think I'm completely nuts. Although they don't treat me any differently, or won't see me or think. Just carry, because whatever it is, I've known them for years, and very difficult. Very, very. As I said, I don't wear any jewelry. Nothing. There's nothing on me to show that I'm satanic. Anything. Nothing.
Yeah.
Because I just say, look, somebody will ask some question or something.
Absolutely. And I have been in situations where if I were showing my hand of cards, so to speak, I would have missed out on a great advantage over the other person, whether it's in a business dealing or negotiation, or I would have basically showed my entire hand if I would have come in with the inverted pentagram on or inverted cross or, showing my tattoos or what have you. But I was able to exploit that, meeting the norm, and ultimately it benefited me and ultimately Satanas so much more just by playing it very close to the vest.
Look, some people have a problem. It looks in some ways, are you leading a double life? And some people can't handle that. They find that very difficult. What they want to be should be out there. I have no trouble with it, leading a double. If I go and see a client, I have no trouble playing the game, playing
Right.
what is the usual business game, fine. What I'm thinking inside may be totally different, but I'm saying within this society, you have to play that game.
Yes.
If you don't, if you pitch up with a dirty old T-shirt and a filthy old pair of jeans, you're not going to get the job.
That's right.
You
That's
play the
right.
game of putting on that suit, tie, la la la, because that's what they want you to be. Okay, fine. If that's what's necessary to do that to survive in society, then I'll do it.
Absolutely.
But some people have quite a hard time with that. I know they sort of double. It seems a double life. I don't think it's a double life. In fact, some ways I quite like it. Some is that it's secret.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this whole thing stems from the occult. And the
Yeah,
reason it's called a cult is you reveal only what and when you want to reveal it.
yeah,
Nobody can put a bullseye on your back because they have no idea who you are.
yeah.
That to me is the ultimate power. It's not a weakness. It's not even
No, I agree.
a self argument. And also, I've had people ask me about that, and I would ask them, "Have you ever wanted to be an actor before or an actress?" Well, yeah, I'd love that. So the role requires certain things of you. And
Mm.
if you do that, people will reward you for best actor, best actress, Yeah, you don't go to the set as you are in your blue jeans with a hole in the knee. And, that's not what people want to see. But at the end of the day, you carry home the big paycheck and the accolades and everything like that. That to me is the win-win situation. And when I would explain it to them like that, they would go, wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's an
You know?
interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to go and get in someone's face about your beliefs. In fact, it's probably going to be to your detriment if you do, but it's so much sweeter to me when you do these things and you end up benefiting greatly from those. And at the end of the day, I'm a Satanist, I'm a devil worshiper. That will never change. The fact that I didn't rub the president of the bank's nose in it is of no consolation whatsoever. I got what I wanted from him or her or what have you. So,
No, no, very true. When you're dealing with the bank manager or the banks, you play the game very well, especially if you want to learn. Okay, it's no
right.
good going in there, as I said before, with a dirty old T-shirt and some jeans and wearing jewelry, around your neck. They'll just, they'll just have a fit. They'll say, "What happened to him? Don't give him any money."
That's right.
You got to play that ridiculous game.
Yeah.
And I do it sometimes socially, you're meeting other people, and through my brain is going, you're Satanist of freedom, and you're chatting away. Well, it's actually funny enough, yeah, it makes me think. I had a friend, and another friend of his was with him, and he turned to him and said, "Oh, he's a Satanist. That's me." The person, the eyes nearly popped out of their head. and they looked petrified. I said, what do you think I'm going to do? Turn you into a frog?
Yeah, exactly. Am I going to
I've never
turn my
seen
head
a
around backwards?
he relaxed a bit. He was very keen to go up, to go home,
Yeah.
to laugh. I said to the guy, and I said, listen, please don't do that again. You're scaring the hell out of the guy. I've never seen a reaction. I mean, literally. And this person was quite liberal. I've met them before. They were quite sort of liberal thinker, la la la. But still, in his mind, yeah,
Yeah.
Satan, they're really dangerous people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a stereotype, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah. No, interesting.
Well, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Where do you see Satanism in the next 10 years worldwide? For theistic Satanists, do you think we're really going to make some inroads and really change people's minds or people's outlook or beliefs? Or do you think we're just in this perpetual cycle of do the same thing, expect different results?
Satanism, you don't proselytize at all. You don't push it on people. And therefore, I don't think it'll ever be a main religion. Most people come to it through their own thought processes privately, or they feel Satan has beckoned at the right moment. At the right moment, they come to that conclusion. I don't know how it'll go. I know in England, Europe, there's a very strong yoga thing going on. And then from that, I think there's a very strong paganism, witchcraft going on. Okay. It can be a natural progression. I think people in Europe are trying to go back to what their original nature worship, worship the earth, this sort of thing. I mean, Christianity is dying, definitely in Europe. I don't know. I don't think it'll ever be a mainstream religion. Okay. As I said, one shouldn't proselytize. Whereas Christianity, it proselytized like mad, and I think it's losing it. I think the Catholic thing is losing it, but they're still fairly strong. South America's strong, as you say, in the Deep South, they're strong. Long term, I think it's going to be many, many years. All right. I mean, witchcraft has always been a sort of hidden religion. I mean, witchcraft in the UK was illegal up to 1953. I don't know whether they arrested you or what, or I don't know. But I mean, it's not been that long that in UK, for argument's sake, it's been legal. And I'm sure in America, probably you'll find the same thing. I don't know whether there were acts or things against witchcraft or occultism, etc. there. Judging by Salem, where they hung, 19 women. I mean, crikey.
Right.
And in fact, funnily enough, I was looking up something about burnings and this sort of stuff. And it turns out the Roman Catholics or the Catholics didn't do that much. They weren't really interested. It was the Protestants who were the guys who used to go around burning people. Scottish witches got burnt in the 1700s, and goodness me. So I don't see worldwide. I think that a lot of people, I hear this or see it. Yeah, I'm a Satanist. I think I don't know. You don't you don't know much about it. You haven't gone into it. It's a feeling that they feel, oh yeah, I'm going to threaten somebody or beat somebody up, and I'm a Satanist. And I think they fail there because, to me, Satan wants everybody to reach their highest potential. And that, to me, actually, is very much a personal thing. That includes animals, anything that has a conscious form on this planet. And therefore, if you go around beating up people or killing people or doing something to them, you're failing in Satanism because you're stopping that guy from reaching his highest potential. So these guys who think, oh yeah, I'm going to be a Satanist, yippee, let's bash somebody, they're failed in what they're trying to do. That's when I do come in. That is incorrect. I'm sorry. And that includes animals as well. I mean, I know other people might not agree. I feel that being in Africa, I've seen a lot of wildlife. I feel elephants have got more intelligence than we have. It's
I
just that
agree. Yeah.
with a foot like that, how can you control a computer? But
Yeah.
I think they're extremely bright, and probably dolphins are as well. I think they're on par with us. If elephants are on par with us or more.
Absolutely. I believe all animals are smart in their own way. A lot smarter than humans, but
Oh,
like you say, they can't type a computer. They don't know how to speak in English or, another established language, but they are intelligent in their own way. I do believe that. And in a lot of ways, they're smarter than humans.
elephants, and some of you can smell water for miles around. Absolutely miles. And the same thing with whales who make sounds that can be heard 1,000 miles away. So I think I'm definitely, to me, I love elephants. They're one of my favorite animals. And I just look at them as what I've read about them. And that's actually amazing. Anyway, interesting. But I include Satan within the whole animal us framework. I don't think it works just for us. I think it works for them as well. These ideas on Satanism. Okay.
Absolutely. I certainly appreciate you taking time to talk with me today. I know I have learned a lot. I just love talking about these subjects, and I wish you the very best. I send you satanic blessings for you and your group. I'm going to put the link down in the description, and I encourage my listeners to go over, check it out. Having real, authentic people that are truly walking the path is becoming few and far between. Go over, check out that ministry, and I know you'll be happy that you did. So thank you again for being here with me tonight. I certainly appreciate it.
Pleasure, Aleister. It's been great. It's been a very nice chat. I've really enjoyed it.
And you know what? We'll do it again in the future. How about that?
Hope so. Super.
All right. And to my listeners, until next time, this has been Aleister Nacht. Hail Satan.